We face the greatest challenge of all, a massive debt that is smothering growth and exceeding the entire size of our economy.
We see now a fiscal mess that affects all of us.
The nation is on the road to bankruptcy.
Balance the federal budget now.
You know, these are very big political and policy decisions.
Those create large and growing deficits into the future.
We must reduce the deficit, which is strangling our economic growth.
You know, it would affect a lot of different people, a lot of different ways.
Well, there's change and then there's change.
It's time that we raise the bar.
The deficit is how our economy sucks. What? Countries, next question.
China. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it has to do with the economy and the government.
Lack of something.
The debt. The deficit is the debt in our country.
It's that that's owed to other countries that we can't pay.
I really have no idea what the deficit is.
Although much of the younger generation is unaware of what exactly the deficit is, the issue is still an enormous factor in the nation, economy, and our own future.
Dear Mr. President, in order for the United States to continue sustaining a life of freedom and liberty for all of its people, amending the growing deficit and debt should be the most important issue to consider in your presidential term.
At the moment, our future is constantly in our minds. From school to extracurriculars like athletics or art, most of what we as younger generation do is part of our preparation to a better future. It's extremely important to us.
In the United States, the economy is a significant part of our society. Buying, selling, trading, borrowing, and using money fuel economic growth locally and nationally. It all eventually leads up to the stability and prosperity of our future.
The economy is the most important activity in any society. When you buy stuff, when you go to work, when you go to school, when you buy a house, when you go to the bank to deposit money, it's all part of the economic activity.
However, the economy is recently weakening due to heavy deficit and debt, affecting the entire nation. The federal deficit is at more than $1 trillion. The resulting national debt is at more than $16 trillion. Stephen Bell, a senior director of the Bipartisan Policy Center, says the debt has been accumulating so much that the economy is at high risk.
You know, our debt as a percentage of GDP for the last 30 or 40 years has been less than 40%. It's only in recent years that we've seen it climb. Now, the fact of the matter is, we're entering dangerous territory.
Deborah Solomon of the Bloomberg View says that the policymakers are arguing and debating over causes, but missing the main culprit, a shell-shocked U.S. economy.
Joshua Gordon says that the deficit is continuing to expand because of job loss, causing less revenue and more spending on aid programs.
You have large deficits for 4 years, mainly because you have really low revenues as people don't have jobs or they're getting paid less. But also we have this mandatory spending programs which grow on autopilot. And so you have unemployment compensation, food stamps, programs like that, Medicaid. They spend more when the economy is bad.
Bethany McLean, author of All the Devils Are Here, says that the entire financial crisis is unclear and a solution is difficult to find.
And I think that the underlying issues of the financial crisis have not been fixed at all, and indeed there's no easy fix.
But there are still fixes to consider.
If we want to lift the cloud of debt that's hanging over our country, and we won't solve the problem of our fiscal imbalance overnight. What we can do is avert the cliff in a manner that serves as a down payment on and a catalyst for major solutions enacted in 2013 to begin to solve the problem.
You can reduce and then eliminate the deficit through two ways. One is increasing the amount of revenue that's coming in through tax policy, or reduce the amount of expenditures by cutting back on expenses and spending, or some combination of those two. And I believe that the most credible way and the most sustainable long-term way is through what we call a balanced approach.
John Boehner, Republican Speaker of the House, emphasizes that spending cuts are the most important and effective way to solve the debt problem.
Republicans want to solve this problem by getting the spending line down. The chart depicts what I've been saying for a long time now. Washington has a spending problem that can't be fixed with tax increases alone. If not, he wants to keep chasing higher spending with higher taxes. This chart's going to look a whole lot worse. And our kids and our grandkids are the ones who are going to suffer because Washington was too short-sighted to fix the problem.
The younger generation will suffer from this issue in the future. And how?
If we don't solve this national debt problem, if we continue to run up the deficit, eventually they're going to cut some of the government services. One of the services will be cut will be education.
We should invest in education. That has to be a continuing priority because, number one, we owe it to the American people to make sure that each individual can obtain and attain their full potential. But we also need as a country to do it. I mean, it's important to allow people to pursue their dreams and achieve their potential.
So the kids will get affected, right? We may not be able to hire good teachers. Our class size may grow, and we won't be able to provide good educations to our kids. Then they cannot really get skills that for them to get better jobs down the road, and then they are not able to pay the income taxes, get high-paying jobs, pay high income taxes to the government. That again goes into a vicious cycle.
If we don't have the money, we're not going to be able to buy textbooks and supplies and for our students.
College seniors who graduated in 2009 carried on average of $24,000 in student loan debt, up 6% from 2008.
And it continues growing. Today, student loan debt has climbed to an average of $27,000 nationwide.
Just how, if they don't go to college, how they're going to afford a place to live, and in addition, once they get out of college, how they're going to pay back these student loans that are so huge.
So I just think everything is just up in the air and nobody knows from year to year what's going to happen.
We inherit the nation, and therefore the debt and economy. And if by then our nation is unable to support our futures, then how will we be able to pursue our own happiness and dreams?
The economy supports the people.
From small businesses to jobs to income.
And as a younger generation,
We hope to begin our life in a nation
that creates many opportunities
for a brighter future.
We're spending money we don't have, or so it would appear. The deficit is that amount we overspend each year. Though congressmen and senators make vows to cut its size, despite their honest efforts, the debt just seems to rise.
Now the debt's over $5 trillion and still growing.
A balanced budget would be great to spend within our means and stop the monster in its tracks before we bust our seams. It feeds on just the interest. Its appetite is whet. It never ever stops to rest. Tyrannosaurus death.